With the first pick, welcome into the Fantasy Rant podcast presented by Stadium Rant. Stadium Rant has tons of great content, YouTube, all social medias. Give us a look, and if you like what you see, shoot us a follow. It's much appreciated and goes a long way. All right, so this week, as you see, it's just me and Evan, just the 585 boys here to get it done tonight. Special port. But yeah, no, it's just us hanging this week. We're gonna go through some starts and sits of the week. We got a new segment called the Fantasy Gym, easy for me to say, where we are going to get your flex up, get that flex spot right, get you flexing hard.
You want to be looking swole when you're showing off those rosters.
That's right. Get a swole roster, get them swole points, do well in these playoffs here, the time of year to get that flex spot right. And then, of course, even just with the two of us, we're going to be doing the Wheel of Misfortune. It's head-to-head, baby. Evan's got the steal, so I'm a little bit nervous about where this steal is going to come.
Big value. I need some value out of the steal this week.
When it's head-to-head, like, you can definitely snipe me on one of my best players and change the course of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what? Let's just dive right into it. We got the starts and sits of the week. Evan, why don't you kick it off with your quarterback start of the week?
My quarterback start of the week is going to be Joshua Dobbs versus Detroit. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of ifs surrounding this, but I think this is his first time playing. Hopefully, if they do play a full game, where he'll have both JJ and, you know what I mean. And
is it reported that it's not Mullins anymore?
I believe, yeah, he was the emergency starter last week.
Mullins isn't down though.
I believe he's starting. Last I looked, I saw reports that he was at least.
I just saw it. All right, so this is an interesting start. We got reports Nick Mullins to remain starter for Vikings in Week 16. Are you changing it to Nick Mullins? Or are you want me to go with mine to start it off, and you can take a second?
Well, yeah, that would be a game changer for sure.
Yeah, the rushing upside is not there with slow 28-year-old Nick Mullins.
But it is a great matchup.
It is a good matchup, and they should be chasing.
He did do great. He did do good last week too. You know what? I'll ride with Mullins.
All right. Hot start here.
Not riding as happily. Definitely not riding as happily as I was before with thinking that Dobbs was in. But yeah, I do like Dobbs this week, or I do like Mullins, like opportunity against Detroit. Detroit's been pretty, defenseless, I guess, against for the QB position. The QBs have been able to put up a lot of points against them over the years. And like I said, they're going to have both Addison and JJ. So that quarterback's going to be loaded with options. Hawkinson's there as well. So yeah, it's pretty clear.
Word. All right. Now I'll jump into mine. I got Baker Mayfield coming off of an insane game, 381 yards, 4 passing touchdowns against Green Bay. First quarterback to have a perfect passer rating in Lambeau Field history. Never happened before. He's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin running at full strength. Godwin had not a career game, but a season best last week as well. Both teams are bottom 5 in passing yards allowed. This is just going to be nonstop back and forth battle throughout the air, especially if Trevor Lawrence is healthy. He does remain in the concussion protocol as of Wednesday. But the man has never missed a game, literally ever. He's played every game in high school, every game in college, and in the NFL so far. Dude's made of steel. I think he'll be back out there. Obviously, concussions are a little bit dicey. It's specific to the individual, to the injury. But I think he'll be out there, and if he does, it is going to be a shootout in this game. Both teams' defenses right now, the teams playing against them, their opponents are choosing to pass at the 5th and 6th highest rate of anybody in the NFL. So 61% for both of them, mid 61% range. Going to be a ton of passing, looking for a big game out of both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. All right, let's get into the running back starts of the week. Evan, who do you got here?
Ooh, my running back start of the week is Tyjae Spears against Seattle. I'm in Seattle right now, and I can tell you that defense is looking thin against the running back. But no, statistically they
Real
are.
though.
And Tajay, not a great week for him last week. Also, not a great week for Henry. So I think he was more efficient and effective than Henry was, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we're going to start to see a little bit more usage of these younger guys, giving them more of an opportunity. And I think Spears could run with it for sure. So I love him. I love him against Seattle this week. Definitely not my I need to start him, but I would be comfortable starting him for sure.
Yeah. I feel like you said, it's kind of like one of those like confidence
Yeah.
boosters. Like if you're forced into this, go ahead and start them up. The Seahawks have been atrocious against the run in the back half of the season. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. DeAndre Swift last week should have had a touchdown, got tripped up by his own big man on the ground there, fell down at the one, and you know how it goes from there. It's tush push city for the
Yeah.
Eagles if they're ever at the one. It's funny because you saw Jalen Hurts too, like looking for the play call. We all know the play call. It's it's the tush push. All
Actually,
right,
I
so
saw something on Good Morning Football about that too. Like that, I watched like two of his touchdowns. One was a pass to Devonta Smith that was really a risky throw, actually, and then another one was just a quick run to the
yeah,
left on the
yep,
outside corner. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's a
there's other than
guaranteed
that, it's
thing at
been
the
only
1 yard
push
line.
pushes for their touchdowns, which is
When you're running at that high of a percentage, why stop it?
yeah,
It's almost a guaranteed touchdown or a guaranteed pickup on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. It'll be interesting to see what the NFL does with this in the offseason. They voted
yeah.
on it last offseason, chose to keep it in, and I don't know if that's going to stand again this year.
I can see them. Getting rid of it. I can totally see that. I'd actually say there's better odds of getting rid of it than it coming back again next year.
No, I agree. I agree. It's just an insane efficiency that they're running it as. I will
Yeah.
say it's individual to the Eagles, though.
Yeah,
We
that
see
kind
other
of does
teams
make it a
doing it.
little bit like, hey, what are we doing here? Just like they found something that they're good at, and we've taken it away from them. Like if they're the only team that is the only one doing it.
They're the only one that is that efficient at the tush
Yeah,
push. So yeah, it is team specific. They do have an insane offensive line. I think it'll still get changed over the offseason here. But my running back start of the week, I got Devon Achan. Uh, Last week we saw Dallas decimated by the running back position. James Cook absolutely destroyed it. It was insane. He had a career game. The Bills as a whole 49 rushing attempts as a team, 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, they threw the ball just 15 times. The Cowboys knew the run was coming. They couldn't stop it. And I think it's going to be more of the same with the Dolphins. As of right now, the Dolphins have the third most rushing yards of any team in the league. And we already know Achan he's got a very similar skill set to James Cook in the fact that he is speedy, he's agile, and he can catch the ball. So I think this is a big bounce back week. On top of it, we haven't seen Achan have a game under 4 yards per carry outside of last week against the Jets and the one game where he had one rushing attempt and got injured.
Mhm.
So those two games, only games under 4 yards per carry on the season, 8.5 yards per carry.
It's insane.
Absolutely insane. And that is the most of any running back by a long shot. Even with, I put the minimum amount of carries as low as 20 carries. So you could have a couple RBs that just popped off long games. And even then, still the most yards per carry. And he has 72 attempts. So love me some Achan this week. I think it's going to be a huge game. Obviously, a big playoff impact coming if the Bills get the win against your Chargers, which is almost the guarantee,
Yeah,
and
Houston
the
stick.
Dolphins potentially losing one. So let's see how that goes. But let's move on to your what? You know what? Let's change it up. I'm throwing a curveball here. Let's go to your quarterback sit of the week. Then we'll
Quarterback
do wide
sit
receiver.
of the week.
Yeah, yeah. We'll do
Oh
wide
man, I
receiver.
know you want to hear this. I know you want to hear this one, but and my
Don't tell me
girlfriend
it's T.
does it.
Higgins.
My girlfriend does it. It is Jordan Love against Carolina.
Hey.
I do not have a lot of faith in that this week. Carolina is their defense is, the quarterbacks just can't put up points against them. The run defense isn't that great, right? If I'm not mistaken, I know me and
Oh,
Mason.
Rundy is terrible. That's why Bijan getting zero point 0.4 points in some leagues and negative 0.4 points in others is so disheartening.
Yeah, it's so unreasonable. So
Oh my
unreasonable. That loss of drinking on a championship for that one. Just
yeah.
pulling out, pulling
Yep.
out.
I just took my shot, but I'll do another one.
Yeah.
I'll do another one. Screw you, Arthur Smith. Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Look what you make me do. Yeah, Jordan Love. No, I don't know. I don't know. He's kind of been a risky look all season, but I do think that he's coming to form and he's learned a lot and he's improving. I just don't see it happening against this defense here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been smooth sailing for quarterbacks against them. It's not like they have this elite pass defense. It's just the fact that you can run the ball at will over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking with Aaron Jones being another week removed from his injury, one of those players that I don't know how many playoff rosters have Aaron Jones on it because how much he hurt you during the regular season. But if you somehow made it and you got Aaron Jones, a guy I'm very confident starting this week. Um, there's AJ Dillon's been banged up. Patrick Taylor's not anything to worry about. It should be the Aaron Jones show. Came out of that game healthy, so I'm firing up Aaron Jones with full confidence this week.
Yeah.
But we will go on to my quarterback sit of the week. It's painful for me to say. I traded Patrick Mahomes, knowing that this guy was my backup, and Mahomes was having a career worst season. Um, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, it's nothing to do with him or the San Francisco offense, and it is everything to do with the matchup. He goes up against Baltimore this week, and the Ravens defense is just legit. It's too good to me confidently start a quarterback against them. On top of it, if you've made it this far into the playoffs, the chances are you don't have Brock Purdy as your only QB option. So the numbers here, though. The Ravens defense allow the third fewest points to QBs, 13.7 points per game in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. They have only allowed two top 15 quarterback performances on the season. The whole year, those two performances come against Matthew Stafford not too long ago, 2 weeks ago, and then Joshua Dobbs, of course. Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, everyone guessed that.
Not
Those
Nick
two guys
Mullins.
did.
Not Nick Mullins. Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, not Nick Mullins. Not Nick Mullins. No, Stafford and Dobbs put up QB5 and QB7 respectively. But every other performance against the Ravens have been outside of QB15. And it's not like they haven't played good competition. They've gone up against CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff specifically in week 7 while he was QB5 at that time. And then Joe Burrow, granted, I will say it was at the very beginning of the season where he was dealing with the ankle injury, and then the game that he left and got injured with the wrist injury. So take that Joe Burrow in with a grain of salt. But the rest of those guys, plenty of QB1 performances, and the Ravens haven't allowed more than 2 QB15 performances. Really quick, I got a speed round for you, Evan. You ready for
Ooh.
some start sits versus against Brock Purdy?
Okay, let's go.
All right. So I'm starting off easy. Justin Fields against Arizona.
Justin Fields against Arizona. I'm going to start Brock. I'm going to start Brock.
Wow. See, this was easy to me because I thought it was easily Justin Fields by a landslide.
No, I actually don't quite agree with your sit of the week here. I do think that that defense is not perfect. They're not going to be perfect all season, and they have also never faced Christian McCaffrey before in an offense. So,
yeah, but he can only do so much through the air and dump offs. One of the other things I got rid of this stat because we're already at 14 minutes into the pod here.
yeah.
But the Ravens, the only weak part of their defense is the run game. They are top 7 in points allowed, like team points allowed, total yards, passing yards per attempt, passing completion percentage. They get the 7th most sacks in the league. However, their run defense not quite as elite. So I do think that they could utilize that offensive line, play some bully ball in the trenches. Christian McCaffrey gets involved, steals some of those touchdowns away from Brock Purdy. So that's what I'm expecting personally. But I hear what you're saying. The check down to McCaffrey is good for at least 5 to 10 QB points for Purdy, depending if he gets in the end zone.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying too. I may just be hanging out with Mason too much too. So
I think so, man. He's rubbing off on you. I don't like this. The Seattle San Fran connection here. Usually
Mhm.
they're butting heads, and I don't like that. But no,
Well,
all right.
he's
So,
not going to like my start of the week at wide receiver here.
hey, I'm interested. I'm interested. All
Who
right.
you got?
So, I said rapid round, and then I went on a tangent. All right, rapid round. Ready? Rapid
Yeah,
from here on out.
yeah.
We got so Brock Purdy versus Dak going up against Miami.
So Dak, I would take Dak against Miami over
I
Purdy.
agree. Tua against Dallas or Purdy against the Ravens.
As a Tua shareholder, I gotta go. I gotta go Tua. I gotta go Tua
There you
here.
go too. More potential shootout there.
Tyreek, I just need Tyreek in that game.
Yeah. Stafford against the Saints.
I'm starting Purdy.
This is where it gets more questionable. Baker against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm starting. I do like Baker too. This is Mason coming in. I know it, but we and him both agree on Baker. Nah, yeah, I'll go Baker.
I go Baker there as well. And
It's going to
then
be a high scoring game, I think.
Opposite side of the ball, if cleared to play, Trevor Lawrence going against Tampa Bay.
If cleared to play, then probably Trevor Lawrence. I definitely feel for some reason better with Baker than Trevor Lawrence. To be honest, got
No, I agree.
weapons, more proven weapons.
Yeah, the proven weapons are there, but he still has Ridley. Maybe Zay Jones comes back from the hamstring. Not as confident in that. If he was there, then I would be feeling much more confident. But Evan Ingram also would love to have him on my roster for
He's
this
just
match.
absorbing everything that Christian Kirk was getting to.
Yeah, it's insane. And then, so guys I didn't name that we would obviously start above Brock Purdy here. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, most likely Lamar Jackson, since the rushing upside's still there. That'll be interesting though. The Lamar versus Purdy. Some managers are going to have both on the roster, so I'm interested to see what people are going to be starting here. Send in any of your start sit decisions. If you got some questions, send them into our tags here. You got Following the Volume and Evan Gooding 9. Hit us up on Twitter. We'll answer some of your questions. Or if you're already locked in, send us to those lineups. We'll repost it, see what the people think here. All right, moving on to the running back sit of the week. Who do you got, Evan?
This one hurts me personally because I'm trying to find a replacement for him on my team. I got Devin Singletary versus Cleveland. That Cleveland defense, all too well how good that is against the run. I mean, lately they haven't been stopping it too well, but they're still like a dominant defense, and you just don't want to be starting a running back against them or anybody against them.
Yeah, news just came out too. Case Keenum is going to be starting this week. CJ Stroud is out yet another week.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary just has more red zone upside if he's got CJ Stroud moving that offense. But with Case Keenum there, maybe Nico Collins out as well. Not as confident that he's going to get those red zone touches.
Yeah, Nico Collins, if he would be the other guy that I could start over Devin Singletary, and I'm like, well, I don't even want to start either of these guys against that Cleveland defense. But even then I have Keenan Allen. Who would you start comfortably, Keenan Allen or Devin Singletary?
Hey, we're in the same league here, man. I'm not trying to give you fantasy advice.
You don't have my picks. But no, I think I have to start Devin Singletary, but I don't want to. I really want to start Keenan over him.
Oh, you said Keenan and Singletary? Is that what you said? Keenan and Singletary?
Keenan, Singletary, Nico Collins are kind of my three.
If Keenan's healthy, it's hands down Keenan.
Yeah.
Like the Bills defense, they're down Tre'Davious White for the season, and they're going to be passing all day in this game. I'm expecting them to be down at least 10 points by the end of the first quarter and probably stay trailing. So
if they're calling it quits, though, I don't see them using Keenan a ton.
Well, that's the thing. You're saying like if Keenan starts, then yes, I'm playing Keenan. If Keenan's inactive, obviously.
Well, what if he starts and gets limited usage?
I just don't think that's the case, though. I feel like if they start him, he's going to be out there doing his thing. Yeah. If he's going to be limited, then just sit him. You have nothing to play for.
Yeah.
And if Nico's active, I would go Singletary over Nico, just because Martin Emerson's been locked down on those big-bodied wide receivers. Denzel Ward is back. Greg Newsome's full strength. Myles Garrett's ramping up, and on top of it all, it's Case Keenum. It's not C.J. Stroud. So I would go Devin Singletary between the two if Nico's healthy.
You know, I asked this question earlier in the season, and it was a game that Nico put up 29 points. I think it was like 2 weeks ago against Denver. Do I want to start Singletary or Nico Collins against Denver? And I ended up taking – Lee told me to start Singletary. I ended up not listening to him and starting Nico, and paid off big time. Put up like over 20 points, almost 30 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, I don't know if he's listening right now, but Tyler said the same thing last week going up against the Browns. Who would DJ Moore? He's like, should I start DJ Moore or this other guy? I forgot who the other guy was. Like, that Browns defense is real.
It's real. It's real.
DJ Moore, he had a very average DJ Moore game. I think it was around 9 points on in full PPR there.
I think I take limited Keenan Allen over that, to be honest.
Yesterday, I guest spotted on the Fifth Down territory. Check out their podcast. Great stuff. Start wins and losses for every game in the league. And then also yesterday we shit on some head coaches there too. So that was a fun pod. But yeah,
he said that you guys mentioned Arthur Smith at all.
Oh yeah, that was the star of the show. Up top, Arthur Smith talk. Gotta get rid of Arthur Smith, man. It's just so frustrating. He's got to be the general manager's worst nightmare. He's like, all right, I got you, Kyle Pitts. I got you, Drake London. I got you, Bijan Robinson. And what does he do? Limit all of their touches? Makes zero sense, especially for putting guys above him like Jonnu Smith or fourth round Tyler Algier. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
It's like, you know how Bill Belichick does the defense? Like, he'll just take the best player off the field pretty much when you're playing against him. And he does that for offense, though, for their offense. Like, he's
for his own offense.
Which player am I taking off the offense here this week?
That is so funny. I want to see the Falcons versus the Patriots now, where Bill Belichick's like, I'm eliminating your best player. And Arthur Smith's like, one up, yeah, I already eliminated.
He's already, yeah.
He's gone,
the kryptonite.
Bill.
He's the kryptonite.
What are you gonna do now?
And that he keeps winning. Maybe he is winning. That maybe this kryptonite method is
last year he had a lot more luck than this year. He's not nearly. I mean, we saw that game last week. Rain game, granted, but like that's where Bijan should thrive. You know, against one of the worst run defenses in the league.
No,
like
I think
run
I'll
your boy
for a good portion of the rest of my life. For what he did with me trusting him with Bijan last week and losing in the playoffs. A good portion of my life will be, he's not gonna be in positive spirit.
Well, hopefully we won't be swearing his name too much. Hopefully they do the right thing and get rid of him.
Yeah, I'll feel a lot better.
All right, so moving on to my running back sit of the week here. We got Saquon Barkley, and I do mean sit him. If you have terrible flex options, maybe you can flex him, but I am straight up sitting Saquon Barkley this week. Last week against the Saints, 9 attempts, 14 yards, 2 receptions for 23 yards. The Saints before that game in the last 3 weeks, they gave up 165 rushing yards to the Panthers, just to Panther running backs too, not even including wide receivers, quarterbacks, anything. 165 yards to the running back. 116 to Detroit in week 13, and 198 rushing yards to Atlanta running backs in week 12, while Saquon's putting up 14 yards on 9 attempts. Absolutely atrocious numbers. On top of it, the Eagles, that's his matchup this week, they are allowing the 7th fewest rushing yards per game. They did just allow Kenneth Walker to be RB8 last week, but Barkley going up against top half defenses, so top 16 defenses, he hasn't gotten more than 7.8 points in half PPR leagues against top 16 defenses. That's atrocious. Obviously, a top 16 defense. Don't want 7.8 points out there in my playoff matchup. On top of it, for fantasy purposes, Eagles are currently first on the season against the running back position in half PPR formats. All of my stats today are half PPR formats here. So just a fair way to go about it. But yeah, I'm straight up sitting Saquon Barkley in the leagues that I have him. I have other decent enough running backs. I'm starting guys like Chuba Hubbard this week over Saquon Barkley, and I'm doing so confidently. Helps that he's got a good matchup, Chuba, but we'll touch on that later. All right. So
So
let's
maybe unlike your first sit of the week with Brock, I do agree with you more on the Saquon. I do agree.
yeah, it's tough saying to sit Saquon Barkley in your fantasy playoffs, but with this matchup with that stagnant Giants offense, can't trust it. And I don't want the floor option there. I'm looking for somebody who can provide me some ceiling. All
Yeah.
right, so let's kick it over to the wide receiver starts of the week. Who do you got here?
Mason's favorite player. I got JSN out of Seattle here. I was beating on Seattle earlier in the start sit, so I gotta raise them up again here. But they're playing Tennessee. Tennessee is very welcoming for wide receivers, and with JSN, what he did last week, saving people in the playoffs or hurting them depending on which side you're on. That last touchdown was amazing, and I gotta have he's in my good graces right now, and he's efficient with his targets for once. He's been blown up with targets before. He hasn't been very efficient with it. 4 targets, caught all 4 of them. So maybe this is like a development in the coming like quick right before our eyes. But I don't know. And there's also the fade of Tyler Lockett happening right before our eyes. So
I feel like I heard an evil laugh from your girlfriend in the background. I know she
no,
just clinched another round in the playoffs with that JSN touchdown catch.
Maybe she did tell me she was asking for your advice though, since I was not being not off my
I told her JSN over George Pickens last week, and if she
yeah.
started George Pickens, she would have been out of the playoffs there.
Yeah, so
So
it was a good one.
you know what? Like we said, hit us up. We got your advice here. Just hit us up at his tags here. All right. Is that all you had on JSN?
Yeah.
All right, solid. So I got Calvin Ridley going up against Tampa Bay. Since Christian Kirk has gotten injured, 12 and a half targets over the last 2 games. That has just averaged out to 46 yards, no touchdowns, but he's played against the Browns and the Ravens the last 2 weeks. Those are both top 3 defenses against the wide receiver position. Tampa Bay is terrible against wide receivers this year. So far in 4 games, he has 4 games over 20 PPR points. This one was full PPR. And I think this is going to be his 5th, bottom line. I do, like I said, I think Trevor Lawrence will be out there. They got playoff aspirations. This is a big playoff game for them. So I think that they're going to find a way to get him out there, even with the concussion protocol. But even if he doesn't, there's not a ton of options right now. Zay Jones was switched from day to day to week. Doesn't look good. If you saw the hamstring injury, he pulled up hard. Zay Jones did not look comfortable after pulling his hamstring. And that if they want him back for the playoffs, their best bet is to rest him the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that leaves just Calvin Ridley, Parker Washington, and Evan Ingram in the passing game. So I'm confident starting Calvin Ridley, even if it's CJ Beathard. Like I said, I think it's going to be a shootout. So hopefully Trevor Lawrence is there, but even if CJ Beathard is starting, I'm confident enough to roll out Ridley as a start this week, given the targets, 12 and a half targets over the last 2 games. Just insane. All right. Who do you got for your tight end start of the week?
My tight end start of the week, somebody who I own in our OG league, Isaiah Likely, and he went off for me the past 2 weeks. I've needed him with Waller being out. And now we got Waller back, and I kind of don't know what to do. do I start him over Waller? But San Francisco is a really tough matchup. Either way, especially with Zay Flowers kind of being banged up. We did see the questionable tag. I know it's not going to affect him coming into the game. He should still play. But, Isaiah Likely may be the main target they go to. And that offense, there's a powerful offense with Lamar Jackson always being able to buy you some more time to get open. He's starting to develop a connection with them. And by connection, I mean just kind of how can I chuck it up there because Isaiah Likely was double covered on that D play that they had last week. Where
I was going to bring that play up. It was beautiful. Man.
It was beautiful, but he probably should not have thrown that ball. But he has a lot of faith. He has a lot of faith with him, and Isaiah Likely showed up for it. So this is a tough defense, but if they're putting 2 guys on Isaiah Likely and he's powering through, I think he can continue to do that.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is Fred Warner is one of the best coverage linebackers out there. I think he's got the fourth highest PFF coverage grade right now. But that being said, I was looking at that because I also considered him being a start of the week. Went against it because of the matchup here, but Fred Warner, when I was looking at it, it's not like he's exclusively lined up against tight ends. So there will be some opportunities for Likely. And I do think that they are likely to be trailing, which the Ravens aren't used to. So probably a little bit more passing volume for the guy here.
Mhm.
I'm going with Jake Ferguson in a similarly styled thought process. I think that the Dolphins are going to be up. I think that the Cowboys are going to be trailing. On top of it, the Dolphins, they have Howard and Ramsey. They're going to be all over CD Lamb. And after that, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup aren't impressive secondary options. So I think Jake Ferguson will get fed. The on top of it, the Dolphins are down Jerome Ford. They're onto their backup linebacker. I don't think that it's going to be the best situation for the Dolphins. So I'm looking for Ferguson to take advantage of that. Over the last 3 games as well, 8 target average, 5 receptions, 10 PPR points, averages around 60 yards per game over the last 3. I think this continues more. We see more Jake Ferguson, and I continue to regret letting him go on my dynasty roster. That Loon Shoemaker, man. I thought that it was going to be something more, and I was wrong. All right. Who's your wide receiver sit of the week this week?
My wide receiver sit of the week. Well, you took mine first of all, but I don't want to take steal your thunder over here. I'll let him simmer.
Appreciate that.
But I got Drake London versus Indy, and this is more of a bold. This is definitely more bold prediction. He has shown to be doing pretty good. Like the week before last week, 28 points or 29 points. That's pretty solid. You can't complain with that at all.
Yeah.
But he's hit or miss. And when it comes to the playoffs, I need security. I need consistency. I don't want to
Yeah.
kind of dart throw. I mean, depending, unless I need that high ceiling players to go in there if I'm really, up against tough competition. But
Right.
right now, I just can't trust anybody in that offense. I trusted Bijan, and look where it got me out of the playoffs.
Yes.
Am I
Same,
going to
man.
trust Drake London now? No. I'm not going to trust anybody in that offense. Yeah,
Yeah.
Arthur Smith over there. Not to keep beating on him, but I'm going to
No,
keep
I feel
beating.
you, man. If Bijan or Zay Flowers scored 3 points for me, I would be in another
Yeah.
playoff. And I went in 11 leagues, made the playoffs in 8 of 11. Happy with that. First week, thank you, Bijan. I am out in 4 of my 8. Not all are due to Bijan, but 2 of them are. So, thank you, Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Take it easy. All right. So my wide receiver sit of the week, we got Terry McLaurin going up against the Jets. He's coming off a big game. However, in that big game, we got 3 of 9 for 48 yards from Sam Howell. They put in Jacoby Brissett, 3 of 3 for 93 yards and a touchdown. That's drastically different. They already named Sam Howell as their starter this week. Right now, Terry McLaurin on the season, he has 5 games going up against top 16 defenses. He has 0 games in the top 24 wide receiver, like as a top wide receiver in those 5 games against the top 16 defenses. In his 14 games played, he has 7 games where he is wide receiver 42 or worse. Wide receiver 42. That is
42.
killer. That is destroying you. So like you said, not trying to have anybody that can give me that floor performance that is that low. Obviously, we said he's going up against Jets. You guys already know Jets are the number 1 against wide receivers. They are allowing 4.3 less points per game than the second defense against wide receivers. That is substantial. They are elite against wide receivers. I don't trust it. I'm not starting him. You can't make me do
You
it.
can't. You can't make it.
All right. So, who do you got for the tight ends this week? Who's your sit of the week?
My sit of the week is somebody who is injured. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. Dalton Kincaid against the Chargers, my Chargers, and they just. You could put up so many points against the Chargers based on what Oakland did to us last week. Who knows? Maybe this new coaching staff and regime coming in will be a differentiator and be able to make the defense do its job. But I haven't seen anything really so far that would lead to that. But Dalton Kincaid also put up a donut for us last week. We couldn't trust him at all. It was, I believe, the first game back for Dawson Knox. So maybe that was more of an impact for it too than we realized. So I would not be comfortable starting Dalton Kincaid, honestly, even if he was fully healthy. So I think that is a risky play. He's got the ceiling for you for sure, but I don't know if I'm going to count on that in the playoffs.
I did just take a look at it. It was Dawson Knox's second game back. He did have one against KC. He also put up 0. He wasn't even targeted. So they're just not even throwing to the tight end position. I would feel like it's almost more encouraging if Dawson Knox had a huge game. Maybe it's just a little give and take between which tight end goes off. But for both tight ends to put up 0 points in a game that the Bills dominated offensively, not encouraging. So I fully agree with that. I will start even my tight end set of the week. I would start above Dalton Kincaid this week.
Yep.
That leads me into mine. I got Dalton Schultz going up against Cleveland. Cleveland is the second toughest matchup against tight ends. On top of it, we talked about it. Case Keenum is getting the start. Schultz would benefit more if Nico Collins is ruled out. However, Nico got in a limited practice today on a Wednesday, so that's an encouraging sign for his availability. Schultz this season, he has 4 games going up against top half defenses versus tight end position. In those, put up 1.5 points or less in 2 of those 4 games in a half PPR format. The other 2 games, he scored 9.5 PPR points. That was very much carried by his performance last week against Tennessee. I am not expecting this to continue. I don't know if you saw that game, but Schultz had this insane grab, uh, full rights to the secondary. I don't know if it's a safety or cornerback, but he had it in his hands, and Schultz just manhandled it right out of his hands. Great catch, amazing. Not expecting that to continue. So I'm sitting Schultz this week if I have any better options. Not trying to test this Cleveland defense right now.
No, not at all.
All right, so let's hit the new segment. We got the fantasy gym. Fantasy gym, let's get this flex right. Get your flex right.
It's getting shredded.
Never a more important time to do so. So let's talk about it in this segment. I mean, we already kind of covered it. If you didn't guess by now, we're going to be talking about flex position players. So like late RB or like back end RB2s, RB3s, back end wide receiver 2s, more so wide receiver 3-4 range. So let's give out the list here. We got Chuba Hubbard against Green Bay, Javonte Williams against the Patriots, Ty Chandler against Detroit, Jerome Ford against Houston, James Conner against Chicago, Isaiah Pacheco against the Raiders, Cortland Sutton against the Patriots, Lockett against the Titans, Hopkins against Seattle, Deontay against the Bengals, Jordan Addison against Detroit, and Chris Godwin against Jacksonville. We're ranking them top to bottom here. Evan, I haven't heard your rankings yet. Very interested to see where
yours either. This is good.
I'm very. Let's start with the top 6. Give me your top 6. I'll go through mine, and we'll see if we have any major disparities here.
Yeah. Well, number 1, going with somebody that I thought had a different quarterback going into the show, which is Jordan Addison versus Detroit. I thought we had Dobbs there, but Nick Mullins is there. So a little less comfortable about that. If I had some time to adjust it here quick before we got there, I would have. But still pretty comfortable with it. I do think he still belongs in the top 6 for sure. And he's shown chemistry with Mullins too. He got those 2 touchdowns last week. He had a great game. So I think
he's only had one better game than last week with Nick Mullins on the course of the season, with Cousins, with Dobbs, with anybody.
Yeah. So yeah, he showed out. He showed out for it, and so he's my number 1. Moving on to number 2, James Conner at Chicago. So love James Conner this week. I've had him in a lot of. I wish he was more available this season. He also was the root of one of my league's big problems, but I do think that he's a great running back, and he's pretty much the only guy that they're trusting. Michael Carter's getting a little bit of cut carries here and there, but I'm not worried about that at all. This is his backfield, and they run the bell cow system with him. So I think that he's going to put up a comfortable floor for it. Then going into D-Hop for Seattle, Love D Hop. I just bought him actually. I may have overpaid for him. And I paid a second and a third for basically D Hop and Ritter, which was kind of just an emergency guy for me. Was now I guess he doesn't have a job anymore. Thanks, Arthur Smith. But moving on, we got Chris Godwin versus Jacksonville, and Chuba Hubbard versus Green Bay. Then Ty Chandler versus Detroit.
Okay. Okay. So we have a little bit of difference here. Not a ton. I also have James Conner ranked pretty high. I got him as RB3. I will say Chicago, I feel like there's this impression still that they are a terrible defense. They were over the beginning half of the year. Right now, they are allowing the fewest yards to the running back position. Pretty surprising turnaround for this Bears defense. But I still have them ranked number 3 because of the usage. From the top, though, we'll go Chuba Hubbard against Green Bay. Green Bay's atrocious against running backs. He is getting fed since since Frank Reich got fired. He's just Miles Sanders is an afterthought. Even with his limited touches, he's doing nothing. Chuba Hubbard is getting all of the work on the ground and a decent 2-3 targets per game since the new regime in. Um, Chris Godwin against Jacksonville. I would like this a little bit more if Trevor Lawrence is for sure starting, knowing that there's a higher chance that this is going to be a back and forth shootout rather than maybe Tampa Bay taking an early lead. But Chris Godwin came off of a season high performance last week, and Jacksonville is bottom 3 in terms of passing yards given up per game. Talked about James Conner at number 3. Jordan Addison, I have at number 4, so also not too different from where you had him ranked.
Yeah.
Going up against Detroit, exposable secondary and a very tough run defense. I think they're going to have to rely on their passing game. And with Justin Jefferson back, Jordan Addison can be efficient. He's not there just as the main guy to take away for defenses, but he's going to be a guy that can get loose on the CB2 for that team, create some big plays. So number 5 and number 6 are really close to me, honestly. So DeAndre Hopkins going up against Seattle, and then Tyler Lockett going up against Tennessee. Head-to-head matchup there. One's got DK Metcalf and JSN to go up against, and that's why Tyler Lockett is number 6. Hopkins just has more of the opportunity presented to him. However, Tennessee doesn't have those young, athletic, talented cornerbacks like Seattle does. They got Weatherspoon and why am I blanking right now? Rick Woolen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got 2 studs really at the cornerback position. I did see that I think it was Witherspoon. I'm sorry, one of the 2, Witherspoon or Woolen, has been moved a little bit more to a slot cornerback, which I think can benefit DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
So if Michael Jackson is going to be the other guy on the outside, move DeAndre Hopkins around pre-snap, get him matched up against Jackson rather than one of the 2 in Woolen or Witherspoon, and take advantage of that matchup all day long. But it's not necessarily in Tennessee's DNA to be moving DeAndre Hopkins pre-snap or really anybody pre-snap. They're more a lineup, run it down your throat, bully ball type of team. And Seattle, like we talked about earlier, is bottom 5, specifically in the last half of the season, but also on the course of the season against the run. Thinking this is a big Derrick Henry game here, which can take away from DeAndre Hopkins.
What's crazy is we had, without knowing ahead of time, we had 5 players, both all the same, 5 players in the top 6.
Yes,
and Tyler Lockett was the only one that wasn't in my top 6, and Ty Chandler wasn't in your top 6.
Not to give too much away, but Ty Chandler is number 7 for me.
Yeah, so, not to give too much away, Tyler Lockett's number 12 for me.
Let's go. Top 7, all this. Oh, you say 12?
12.
Oh man, I was getting ready. I was like, all right, yeah, top 7, all the same.
We found the disagreement.
As I was talking. Okay. 12th is pretty low. So
JSN was my start of the week, and I do DK still there. Like I said, fading more on Ty.
You've always been lower on Tyler Lockett this season than I have, so maybe that's a part of it. But I think this is a good segue. Let's list off the bottom 6 guys you got listed for the
Yeah.
flex spot.
This guy would be in the top 6 if he wasn't just coming off of injury. Isaiah Pacheco versus Las Vegas. I think that he's if he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. But Clyde also was showing out, and I didn't like to see that as a Pacheco owner. I didn't like it at all. I wish it would have stopped, but he didn't stop. He just kept putting up good numbers and he kept performing. So I'm a little bit worried that this could move into a timeshare, but only a slight hesitation there. Deontay Johnson's next year versus Cincy. I don't like the guy. I don't know why I've had him this side, to be honest with you. But Javonte Williams versus New England, Cortland Sutton versus New England. Couldn't figure out who to start. That was a really close one for me, 9 and 10. And then Jerome Ford at Houston and Tyler Lockett. You already knew it. Wrapping up the caboose.
Man, oh man. All right, so very similar players ranked pretty differently. I got Ty Chandler at 7, Pacheco going against the Raiders at 8, Sutton against New England at 9, Deontay against the Bengals at 10, and Deontay's only ranked that low. I'm a little bit higher on Deontay on the course of the season than you have been, but Mason Rudolph is listed as the starter right now.
Yeah.
They said that there's a chance that Pickett starts, which would give me more faith for Deontay. But if Mason Rudolph is out there, who knows where the ball is going to go? It's probably going to go to the defense about as frequently as it goes to the offense. So Jerome Ford at 11 as well. And I got Javonte at number 12. New England's been very tough against the running back position. And Javonte, even though he's been getting more and more volume, which I love given my handle, he has not been doing much with it. He has not seen a game above 4 yards per carry in quite some time. I'm about to fact check that right now. So yeah, literally two games above 4 yards per carry on the entire season. And those games came against Green Bay, which is a bottom 8 defense against running backs. And then Kansas City. Kansas City is actually pretty solid, but still not great for Javonte. The other interesting name that I want to touch more on is Ty Chandler. Great game last week. Popular waiver ad. I'm pretty sure it was touched on in our waiver video. However, Madison is rumored to come back. I don't think Madison's the 1A. I think Chandler has taken over that position. The coaches have even talked about that. But Detroit's really tough against the run. They don't check down all the time to their running back. And I just really don't see Ty Chandler having that same explosive 20-plus point game that he had last week. So that's the biggest name on this side of the list. You also touched on Javonte versus Cortland being a tough matchup for you. New England's giving up more to the wide receiver than they are to the running back position, so that's why I have him considerably higher. That, and he's just the most consistent touchdown option on that offense.
Bill Belichick defense, though, takes away your best player. I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
I mean, that's the classic go-to, but it's just like, I don't know if this is the same team. I think that the Broncos defense is going to dominate the Patriots offense. And I just don't see a world where they are not dominating the plays per game, the time of possession in this game. I think Sutton volumes his way to a flex-worthy spot here.
Right on. On to the results of last week. I'm going to make it brief.
Yes.
All right. So we got me at the bottom because of Arthur Smith and Bijan, when I should have taken the steal from Lee for Christian McCaffrey, put up 41 points as opposed to my 0.4 points. So, yeah, just a terrible decision on my end. And now I'm biting the bullet forward, back on the wheel.
Love it. Back to back weeks on the wheel. Just like it started off.
I started off 3 wins in a row. Now I'm 3
losses in a row. Let's make it 4.
Okay. I don't know. Not with my steal. I got the steal.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I was honestly second, or I was third. We had Mason winning it, or I'm all over the place. Evan was last. I was third. Mason was second. Lee won the week. He had Christian McCaffrey on his team. Enough said. let's get into the wheel here. All right. So this week, starting it off, since I was one spot ahead of Evan, I'm going to be taking the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks on the wheel, in case you're not watching at home. We got Goff against Minnesota, Purdy against the Ravens, Jackson against the 49ers, Tua against Dallas, Stafford against the Saints, and Mayfield against the Jags. I'm going Mayfield number one, Jackson number two, purely rushing upside, and he's just that dude. Matthew Stafford at number three, still a decent enough matchup, and Marshawn Lattimore is already pretty much ruled out according to the coaching staff. Tua going up against Dallas, I think that has the potential for a shootout, even though I think it's going to be run heavy. Purdy going up against the Ravens, tough matchup. Talked about him being my sit of the week. And then Jared Goff at number 6. I'm going to spin this thing unless you have any big.
Tua is the biggest difference. He's my number one.
Number one. Okay. And I think that's fair. Maybe it's a passing game. Maybe Tyreek comes back full strength. I think I need to see it a little bit more before it happens. Spinning that wheel. Same as always, we got 2 passes for all 4 rounds, and Evan gets the steal this week. I got Stafford up against New Orleans. Thursday Night Football. I already got a little parlay riding on this. Let's ride, baby. Matthew Stafford.
He was my bottom ranked. Matt Stafford was my
he's
bottom
my
ranked.
number 2, but I think there's upside here.
Okay. Okay. Let's up the wheel. Let the wheel speak.
All right.
Oh, Lamar, we're San Fran. I'll take it.
You just said his number, or no, that wasn't your number 1.
He was my number 2. He was both of our number 2, so we were similar on him.
That's solid. That's solid here. I'm gonna move on to the running backs. You got the rankings this week. List them off.
This one was tough, and this may be starting off with the homer pick here, but I think Eckler's going to rebound here. He's my number 1. Then I got Connor going, and then I got Chuba Hubbard because of that volume there. Mixon, and then Jones and Achane. I don't trust Achane this week.
We are as polar opposite as can be. I have Achane as my number 1 running back, and I have Eckler as my number 6 running back.
I don't trust Achane this week.
Achane's going to have that big 2 or 3 big runs.
I was waiting to have this conversation because I know you mentioned him earlier in the show.
He's my start of the week.
I know.
It's happening, man.
I know. I don't
chalk it up. It's happening. You want to go Eckler versus Achane? You had him as number 1 and Achane as number 6. I got it the other way over.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Eckler versus Achane. All right. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Chargers offense. That's why this was a really tough week for me to judge. And honestly, I should have Connor number 1 probably, but
wow. Yeah. I mean, so Connor's my number 4. I'll just start from the top. Achane, Hubbard up against Green Bay, great matchup. Aaron Jones up against Carolina, great matchup. Head-to-head there. I got James Conner as number 4. The Chicago Bears have been very good against the run. And then Joe Mixon against Pittsburgh. I think he has room to move up a spot or 2, depending on the touchdown upside. But Chase Brown getting more and more involved. Don't love that. Eckler is my last running back here. We saw him just completely taken out of the game last week because of a massive point differential against the Raiders. This is the Bills. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be 80 points instead of 63.
I don't know. I think that was more of a, let's see how it goes without Brandon Staley.
Let's see how it goes. Your first up on the wheel this time. Let's see who you got. Aaron Jones.
I'm happy with Aaron Jones. He was ranked towards the bottom, but I do feel comfortable with it going forward.
Give me Achane. We'll ride. Hubbard's my number 2. We'll ride with Hubbard. No problem with that at all. Hold on. Did you just take Jones?
Yep.
We got a head-to-head matchup. I love that.
We do.
All right. So let's see. Oh, I didn't name off the guys here. So we got Amon-Ra St. Brown going up against Minnesota. Every quarterback we listed has a wide receiver stack opportunity. Amon-Ra against Minnesota, Brandon Ayuk against Baltimore, Zay Flowers against San Fran, Jalen Waddle against Dallas, Puka Nacua against New Orleans, and Chris Godwin against Jacksonville. I already spun the wheel, so we see how it is here. Oh, let me go through the rankings real quick. Amon-Ra, Puka, Chris Godwin, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers off a terrible game. Ayuk has a terrible matchup. Waddle should have Tyreek coming back, a little bit less opportunity. Chris Godwin, amazing matchup, but questionable quarterback start here. Puka Nacua, Marshawn Lattimore out. He's the outside cornerback. Puka Nacua runs way more routes from the outside, where Cooper Kupp has a little bit more of a stranglehold on the slot position. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, just that dude. No further explanation needed.
Yeah.
So, any big disparities in the rankings there?
No, actually, we're pretty on line there.
There we go. I like that. I also don't know if I'm using the word disparities correctly.
Yeah.
Someone hit me up in the comments. Let me know if I'm using that word right.
Disparity.
All right. So I spun the wheel already. We got Puka Nacua up against New Orleans. I'm gonna use my pass here. Even though Puka is ranked number 2, I got it. I'm playing that game. I want Amon-Ra in this game right now. So I'm giving it over to you for the wheel. You also have your steal, so I'm risking a biscuit here, but let's see how it goes.
Ooh, Ayuk. Let's see. This is the Purdy question that we talked about earlier.
You had
I'm gonna
faith.
skip 2. I'm gonna skip 2.
Skip. We haven't enough skip. Let's get some suspense here. Who do I got? Number 2. I'm stuck with. Give me him. Let's go.
No, thank you, Dan. Thank you.
No, Evan, don't do it.
Thank you.
Evan,
Let me spin first. Let me spin first. Let me log in my player, and then
Evan,
I can
we're
steal.
such good friends. Just let me have this.
He's on my dynasty team, man. He's meant to be mine. He's meant to.
No. See, look at Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers. He was actually my bottom rank guy, but I thought he was more injured than he was actually. So that's when I ranked him. But I'm gonna steal. And
No. All right. Well, at least you giving me the steal gives me another opportunity to spin. Let's see who I get, because I'm not going Zay Flowers. All right, I'll take that. Chris Godwin against Jacksonville. He hasn't had the ceiling in most weeks, but he's coming off of a season high here. Let's hope for more of the same, and let's hope for Trevor Lawrence, man, because I don't know if CJ Beathard's going to get it done. All right.
Last segment here. All right, so what we have on the wheel, we got Darren Waller at Philly. We got Kyle Pitts at Indy. Cole Kmet versus Arizona. Isaiah Likely at San Fran. George Kittle versus Baltimore. Hunter Henry at Denver. And you know what? The old Chargers guy is going to be number 1 for me. Hunter Henry. You know, him and Zappy have been showing a real connection.
I thought I was being a risky biscuit there too. I went also Hunter Henry. He's coming off
let's go.
2 hot games, man.
Dude, back to back with Zappy. Whew.
The only question is the injury. So let's really hope that he's good to go. But
I do hope that as well, because they do have Gesicki ready to just go in there as well. But
right,
Kittle
doing that ugly gritty all the way across the field.
Right. But I got Kittle after that, then Waller, then Likely, then Pitts, then Kmet. I do have Waller above my Likely right now, which is 50-50 for me right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. We're pretty similar. Kmet has, surprisingly, the Cardinals have been a moderately tough defense against the tight end position. I do have him as number 3. I think George Kittle, I mean, it's already known, it's boom or bust, but I think that he might be a little bit more necessary in this game. So number 2 there, I got Likely at 4, Waller at 5, and Kyle Pitts at 6. Just don't know if we can trust Kyle Pitts ever. So until Arthur Smith is gone, we've said it enough this year. But all right, you got Cole Kmet against Arizona as your first option.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip.
Skip it. Skip it real good.
Oh, you got my Waller.
Oh man, that is tough. Do we even know if DeVito or Tyrod's starting yet?
I don't know. I didn't even know that. I just assumed DeVito.
Okay, it said that he was roughed up, but it's not saying that he's out.
Yeah, there's no
Waller's my number 5. I'm gonna skip as well. Let's see what we got here.
And
Oh,
I am with Hunter Henry. Or is it Waller?
All right. He rides with
Hunter
Henry.
Taking it.
All right. Anybody but Waller or Pitts. And the wheel has spoken. I am with Darren Waller. Got him starting in your weird 2 tight end league.
Yeah.
One of a kind. But I'll roll with Darren Waller. That is fine. I think that another week removed from the injury, he can PPR his way to a respectable stat line. That is going to do it this week for Fantasy Rant. Hit us up if you got any start sit questions. Oh, there's a comment that came in. Yo, what's up, guys? Can I ask a question? Ah, man. IDKJP, you came in with 1 minute left on the pod. If you're there, ask your question immediately. All right, for the listeners coming in on the Atlanta radio station here, thank you for listening. Hope you have a great week here. IDKJP coming in with the last minute question. If you got it, Pacheco or Eckler.
Oh, that is a tough one.
That is a very tough question. I personally, I just dunked on Eckler. He was my last ranked on the wheel of these other options here. Pacheco, he's got the touchdown upside. He is coming off of an injury. KC has playoff hopes. So I don't think that they're going to rush him into anything. They've had decent production out of McKinnon and CEH. CEH even had that crazy touchdown catch last week. I think just specifically for this week, I'm going to lean Eckler, even though I'm not in love with him, and he could easily have a low floor. But we talked about how the Chargers I think they're going to be chasing by 10 points pretty much all game. After the first quarter, they're going to be chasing. Hopefully, Eckler gets some checkdowns here. If you're in a full PPR, fully endorse Eckler over Pacheco. Half PPR is more difficult. Still lean Eckler. Without knowing the league type, if it is standard, which is not my forte, I would lean Pacheco for the touchdown upside, thinking the Chiefs are going to be much more heavily in the red zone than the Chargers are this week.
Pacheco he carries so much more risk with that injury, so I'd have to stay with what I know who's gonna touch the ball, which is Eckler. He's gonna touch the ball. He's not gonna have the volume that we were expecting him to have throughout the season, but he's still gonna get his work.
All right, he's coming in with another one. I love it. All right, at Flex, we got Waddle, Puka, Pacheco, and it is PPR, he said. So for your last question, definitely Eckler, in my opinion. And in this instance, I am going to roll Puka. It might be a little controversial with Waddle this week, but going up against Dallas, they're even without Trey Diggs, they have shown that they can hold their own in the secondary. Tyreek should be back, and when Tyreek is back, Waddle is efficient with the touches he gets, but much less involved than we saw him last week without Tyreek. I'm going to go Puka. We've shown that Puka and Cooper Kupp can coexist. Kupp runs more from the slot, Puka more from the outside. Marshawn Lattimore not going to play this week. I lean Puka in a full PPR here.
Yeah, Puka had an off week last week too, but I expect him to bounce back, even against a tough defense.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Waddle's a must start for me for sure.
Love the question. If you guys have any more, we are taking off now, but hit us up on the socials at Follow the Volume on Twitter at Evan Gooding 9. And you are absolutely welcome, man. Have a good night. Take it easy, you guys, and best of luck. Let's get in the championship and win some dubs here.
Let's go. Good luck out there, boys.
Yes. See you.